this week compared to not having maybe notes on playing them in the past?
Uh, you know, you know, seeing Cousins before, the quarterback, seeing him a little bit before. Some of the players, a little bit of familiarity with them, but really the tape's been the best thing to go off of, just in terms of how they've been. They're pretty efficient offense in terms of being able to run the ball. The backs are really good. The O line's doing a good job of working together. They got a good scheme with the stretch run game. So just really diving into the tape and really just trying to see what they do well and what they do poorly, and try to combat that the correct way. But the tape's always the best. That's the best tool right there. And then any notes we might have. But some guys have gone against some of the players before. The O line. I think the O line coach and the running backs coach, they're still the same from the staff before. So you can see the continuity they have in the run game. You could definitely see that. And I think the OC Zach, yeah, he's doing a good job with those guys. And then Raheem, he's one of the best in the league in my opinion, just in terms of over the years. When he was at Tampa and then he was at Atlanta before, moves over to offense, goes to Rams, gets that defense going. So they got a pretty good coaching staff, and you can see the vision of what they're trying to build right there.
You mentioned the backs. I know you've seen it before, but when you have two such dramatically different players that can do so many different things, how much of a challenge does that present for you?
It's definitely a challenge. You start with, the speed and the combination of size, and I know they're different, but there's definitely a size element to both of them. There's definitely a speed element, one more than the other, but again, they do such a good job with their scheme in terms of that stretch run game, in terms of the outside zone. Those guys, they're finding holes. They're well coached, but the challenge is, just trying to get them on the ground. But it starts with dealing with the offensive line, because they're playing well together right now as you look at it.
Coach, 3 turnovers in Tampa in the first half. When you watch tape, is there one thing you can pinpoint to why there's such an influx?
I just think guys were hungry for the ball. We keep talking about it. Just in terms of the lack of turnovers. Not necessarily the lack of attempts, but guys, just stay at it this time of year, and just try to get the ball off them. And thankfully, we got some turnover opportunities last week, and we took advantage of it, and then try to build off of that this week.
Ernie was one of those guys who had the forced fumble, and he's had some more snaps given to him week by week. What has he done just throughout the week to really earn those opportunities, and do you think you'll see more?
It starts with the skill set. He's a very he has good short space quickness. He has good play speed. A lot of times with those younger players at the second level and the third level, what I've seen throughout the league, guys getting those reps on special teams, and then eventually they start to flourish when they get in there on the defensive side of the ball or the offensive side of the ball. So he's taking advantage of that, and Mike's doing a good job of grooming him along with Tom on special teams, and you're starting to see him grow into himself as an NFL football player, especially at that position, the linebacker position. Because you look back at his college tape, a lot of time he was on the line of scrimmage. So it was just a little different, and you see him growing into it. One thing I could make note of is he's real studious in the classroom. He's always asking questions. If he doesn't understand exactly what I'm saying, he's not afraid to ask, and I appreciate that, especially for a young player, because sometimes my experience, they could be intimidated. I don't want to ask the coordinator, but he has no problem asking that.
Okay, Patrick, what are some things that go into when you decide to call a blitz or not call a blitz? Does the quarterback's mobility or lack of mobility play a part in that at all?
Well, now in the league, they're all mobile for the most part. Really, it's about the timing of it. You go into the game week, you have a game plan. Okay, you're anticipating this for 1st and 10, P and 10, get back on track, whatever it may be, and the first call might be hey, we're going to blitz at the start. Then from there, okay, that might have been a setup for something else. So there's a lot of things that go into play. And then obviously you got to take into account the personnel in terms of whether it's the quarterback, do they struggle versus it? Look at the statistics on that. Then you look at, okay, how's the O-line? Are they good at passing it off? Are they going to allow you to? Are they a protection team? So a lot of things go into play for that. And then once you get in the game, it's got to be, educated guesses, like you want to say that, but sometimes there has to be a feel for when you go to pressure, and sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong, and next play mentality, we get paid to be right more than wrong, so that's the thing. So
Going back to the running backs, you talked about the duo, but Bijan in particular, just what makes him unique and tough to continue?
To me, he's tough to tackle. Whether you're talking about open space, let's start there. Open space, he's going to make the first guy miss. I mean, I just haven't seen much tape that doesn't suggest that. So we got to do a great job of leveraging the ball carrier, trying to force him to our help. But his ability, to cut on a dime and make the first guy miss, that's pretty impressive for me. Then the thing, when you see him on this stretch run game, when he stays on track, he's able to break arm tackles. We got to get big bodies in front of him. Just to think of arm tackle, I mean, they're too, both of them are too big. The arm tackle thing's not going to work. So you got to talk about playing with extension, violent shed, get the big bodies in front of them to try to get them down.
Coach,
I know you
last
don't
week,
like to look in the past week, but what stood out to you in terms of the slow start in Tampa that you guys can maybe get corrected this week?
I mean, it starts with me. I mean, it starts with me just, looking at, going back through it, some calls, I'm like, had some real good plays. I mean, they did a good job. I mean, I thought, Liam, I believe he did a really good job with his opening script, and it was pretty good. And then thankfully the guys got going, and I did a better job as it got going. But it starts with me. The slow start. Again, I'm responsible for the defense. It's my responsibility to have them ready. I wouldn't say the players weren't ready. It really just starts with me, and just I got to be more on my. I got to be better. Got to be better.
Coach, last week I asked you about what challenge Mike Evans presents as a receiver.
Mm-hmm.
The Falcons have another receiver, Drake London, who has kind of the similar attributes. When you try to game plan against Drake London, is it kind of similar, or is it a completely different animal?
They got. I mean, just like Tampa Bay had a few receivers. I mean, Mooney is. I mean, he's really playing well. I mean, he stands out too. So, but they got two pretty dynamic receivers with McLeod in there. I mean, like they got. The game plan is similar. There might be certain elements, a big target, where he aligns and things of that nature. They move him around a little bit, but they're two different players. I hate, one's going to be a Hall of Famer, one's early in his career. I always hate comparing them. I don't think that's fair to the kid, but I mean, it's a big body, so one thing you got to try to disrupt. You got to be physical at the catch point. They're going to be physical at the catch point, but there could be similarities. There could be similarities.
A lot of times we talk about, turnovers just coming when a guy just does his job. Everybody does their job, turnovers come. But sometimes does it take a play like Calais made of just like recognizing a play, going and making like a really athletic play, and just doing something?
That's the beauty of having a smart player like KC there. He did his job. The veer release by the tackle, he felt it, the down and distance, he had awareness of that. You're talking about a guy who's a smart player. I mean, like when he evaluated him coming out of college, he was a smart player. So he takes in the scouting report information. I mean, you could talk to him to find out exactly what he's thinking there. But in terms of me as a coach watching it, him reading his keys, the tackle veer released, there was like a bunch set out there. Quarterback picked up. I mean, he did his job by reading his keys and executing. And I'm sure there was a mental element to it because he played with so much awareness right there. So, I mean, it is part of him doing his job. Sometimes turnovers fall into your lap, but that was him doing his job right there.
How happy does that make you as a coach? As the work that you guys put in, you film study and everything else, and a player puts it in.
That I'm always excited about that. Just the thing I'll be more excited about is getting the win. I just want these guys to reap the benefits of all the hard work and all the stuff I ask them to do. It's just we gotta get a win for these guys, man. They do everything I ask them to do. They work hard, they play hard, they're here, they're attentive. We just got to figure out we got to get a win for them so they can reap the rewards of all their work. That's what I'm looking for. I'll be the happiest there.
What have you seen from your guys in terms of continuing to respond and fight every week?
Just the guys we bring in here. Real dudes. Real guys, real men. We got good leadership. And guys play hard. They appreciate the game. We talk about loving the game, appreciating the game. They value the game. They value every snap. Because once you hang it up, you're done. You can't play pickup football. So I think I know they value playing football. So I wouldn't expect anything less from them.
That's all right.
Thanks.
A lot of talk the last couple weeks has been about Sincere and what he's been able to do in the running game. I guess what have you seen from him, in particular his ability in the pass game? He seems to be pretty good in understanding blitz pickups and that sort of thing too.
Yeah, I think just really a guy that prepared for his opportunity. He's made the most of it in every aspect. I mean, when you're a running back in this league, you got to do more than just carry the ball. Obviously, he's done a really good job of doing that. getting north and south, making the first guy miss, getting kind of some extra yards, some dirty runs that have really helped us, stay ahead of the sticks at times. And then, yeah, his assignments in the pass game, whether it's in pass pro or being where he needs to be as an outlet. But no, I think really happy with him, happy for him too. When personal level, the guy that gets his opportunity, it's really cool when you see him make the most of it, and just got to keep going, keep getting better and better, and that's how he approaches it every day.
From an OC standpoint, what are you looking from Aiden this week to be able to get him back on the field?
Really, that really is kind of out of my hands. I mean, they're going to ask my opinion, how I see him, but that really, it's going to be the trainers, how he's able to move, and then obviously AP will make the final decision with all the information. But just, he's got to be able to go to practice and show that he's going to be able to move and play, so he can protect himself and obviously be successful playing football.
Was there much of a change in the game plan between Ritter and Aiden in terms of prep this week?
Why would you say that? I'm kidding. They're different type players. Obviously, that was a joke. I mean, I think you try to play with your guys' strengths, so we'll be ready. We're kind of, like I said, we're going to wait and refer to the trainers and doctors and see with Aiden, but we'll kind of do a couple different things. We'll have basically two type of plans ready to play to each guy's strength, depending on which way it goes.
Is it more of a challenge preparing? I mean, everybody prepares every week. Obviously, we talk about that all the time. But if two guys are working toward potentially being a starter, is that more of a challenge for you preparing?
I think so. I mean, yeah, there's always going to be challenges, but yeah, you want those guys to feel comfortable, and you want to put them in position to do things that they do well. So whenever there's a little bit of you're undecided, then yeah, it's just a little more work you got to put in to be ready.
Scott, the Atlanta Falcons have struggled this season with speedy receivers that run routes really well. What are your thoughts on Trey Tucker, and what do you see for him going forward?
I think Trey, again, a young guy that's done well. He obviously had the big play against Kansas City. I think he's going to continue to get better, and we know we got our other guys, but I think just seeing Trey work and hopefully continues to grow, and I think he'll have some good opportunities in this game against Atlanta.
I think people maybe forget about Jacoby Myers sometimes, just how good he is. I know he right now is the first receiver this century with 95 targets without a drop. I mean, just what have you just seen from him in general as a guy who's been the leader of that room?
Yeah, so Jacoby, I didn't know Jacoby at all until last year, and I tell people this all the time, like he's one of my favorite players I've ever been around. His professionalism and his work, and then his level of toughness is really unmatched. At any position, but especially receiver. And he doesn't really say a lot, but guys know he's serious. He's one of those guys that when he does talk, everybody listens. And those guys, those young guys in the room, they follow him. And on offense, they see what he does, and they see how he's an example of what a pro is supposed to look like, and not only in your work ethic, but also just your attitude. And a lot of resilience, and obviously undrafted. Everything he's gotten, he's earned through hard work, and we know we can count on Jacoby at all times, and whether it's blocking or running routes or everything, like he has a certain level of pride to him that he holds himself to a standard that it's higher than anything that any of us could hold him to.
When a guy's that hard of a worker, he does all those little things you talked about. That's what everybody says about him all the time. He does whatever it takes. Like, do we forget about the high end receiving ability sometimes?
Yeah, I think so. And I'm not trying to take away from that. I mean, he that's just his competitiveness of like going and getting the ball, and he's got the savviness in his route running and releases, and all those things that you see on tape. But I think just I just want to make the point of really what takes him over the top is just and why everyone knows they can always depend on him is just what you see. I mean, what you see on game day is just a small fraction of what we see on a day-to-day basis from Jacoby.
How much can you gather from Desmond Ritter in terms of the personnel of the Atlanta Falcons? Obviously, different defensive coordinator, but personnel-wise.
Yeah, scheme's different. But yeah, we've had good conversations about some of the guys that are that are around. A lot of times it's like confirms what you already know because the tape's a tape. You're late in the season. I mean, we've seen there's a lot of tape on these guys. But yeah, he might have some stuff that he saw in practice that we didn't necessarily see, or he would say something he saw in practice and said, "Oh yeah, I saw that." What I mean? But we've had some good conversations throughout the week about different players.
When you look at the Atlanta Falcons defense, their secondary in particular, what are some things that stand out, and how much attention, would you expect for them to put on a guy like Brock Bowers, considering the last couple of weeks, every defense has put their top corner on him?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. They match they match AJ Terrell. And again, whether that's going to be on Jacoby when he's outside, and then if we put Brock out, we'll go on Brock instead. I mean, we'll find that out as the game goes on. The safeties are high level players. You know what I mean? Jesse Bates and then Jeremy Simmons. Those are big time guys, and we know that we got to plan. Be ready for them. But it's a really good secondary, and they play well together. I know they've given up some big plays, but most teams do at times in the NFL. And but no, got a lot of respect for them and those players.
Additionally, with that, Matthew Judon, another guy who's been a top edge rusher in the league. How big of a task do you think that's going to be for a young player like DJ Glaze, and also with how many guys he's already gone up against? Do you believe that he's welcome for another challenge like that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I got a lot of faith in TJ, but he's got to be ready. I mean, they got a good front. They play really hard. They're real active up front. They do a nice job, with the defensive coaches getting those guys ready to play, and they'll. All of our guys get to be ready for just the different looks they're going to get, but also just they play hard and they're going to be ready to go. They're fighting to win a division, so and I know they've had a couple tough games, but they're going to be coming ready to go, and we got to be ready.
Adam?
We know what Brock can do, obviously, but how good was it to see Michael have the kind of game that he did, and then follow to that, like, what has it been like to have him just back in the building and being around again?
Mike's a great guy again. Like, guys are happy to have him here. Really works hard, and just he's really played well. It doesn't show up in the stat sheet because a lot of it's been blocking, and he's done some good stuff for him. But just to see him have a few catches, and I know he was excited about that. That was good. That was good to see, and we're going to need everybody, like we've talked about before, with games where Trey and Jacoby had huge games because against Denver, but we always need different guys to step up, and it just makes it harder for us to be defended. Okay, thank you guys.